This session is brought to you by Zurich Life and Investments. These guys are one of the last true independent life insurers going around, and they're Swiss, so you know their stuff is solid. These guys really understand and believe in the value of advice, which is why they invest in programs like this one and partner with groups like XY Advisor to help drive the positive evolution of financial advice in Australia. Their team are just really good people as well. So if you haven't already connected with them, to learn more, check out their website or speak to your business development contact. This session is also brought to you by Sun Super. They're one of the fastest growing profit for members or industry funds in Australia. They were the very first of these funds to partner with advisors, and they've got functionality where you can actually link to your client's Sun Super accounts and charge advice fees through the fund, as well as a number of tech innovations to make it easier for you to work with your clients. They've got great investments. They're really, really cheap. And their team are just generally legends. So if you haven't already connected with Sun Super, give them a shout because they're doing some really cool stuff.
James Millard.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast.
Thank you very much for
New
having
and
me.
improved.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Pretty bloody excited, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We're in a very cozy room.
It is pretty cozy. It's nice how you guys could just shuffle up right next to me.
And keep it close to you.
Yeah. We're a tight bunch here.
Yeah, so mate, tell us, New Year's, what'd you get up to?
New Year's with a 10-month-old in my life. I've used her for every excuse. She's my excuse this year. So we did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I caught up with family during the day. We had a few drinks and that was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very low key.
I think you were saying before you're trying to do dry January.
I'm doing dry January. It's the ticket for me to kick off the year in a big way. I did it last year, off the back of a fairly heavy, silly season. And this year, again, the daughter was the excuse. So I got away with missing most December events, which was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used January. I'm using January to stay healthy and try and surf more, do some yoga, and kick the business off.
There's two types of dry Januaries I've noticed. There's the hard dry January where you actually dry the whole time, and then there's the sort of dry January.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Are we a hard dry January?
Yeah.
Cool.
Because I
So
think
far.
Clayton's doing a dry January, but it's more of
It's a soft dry January.
one drink a day dry January.
Everyone,
That'd be an improvement for me usually, but
Yeah.
this so far so good. We're hard.
I'm really proud of you, James. This is a big step.
I appreciate that.
What's Serba time afforded you? Have you been spending time with family more? Business stuff?
No, writing blogs and
Yeah.
trying to create more content. We for the first time ever we sat down with YOLO and actually put a proper marketing plan. Well, we're calling it proper because we started from scratch. But a plan in place to create better content and do some challenges and a few things like that.
Is there anything in particular that's cool and new on that plan?
I don't know about cool. You guys can decide whether that's a word you'd use to describe it. But we're running a series of challenges. So once a month, doing a different challenge. It's a list building exercise that hopefully engagement, using email, building the list on email, but also your videos through Facebook and in Instagram as well.
So
is
we're
that
talking
the bucket list challenge?
It is.
That I saw, yeah.
Yeah, so that's January. February is more around fitness. So they'll be going through things like money fitness, mental fitness, that side of things. And we'll get into things like savings and debt as we go. We're trying to create or keep the lifestyle aspect. But obviously the money side is what people are here for.
How's the bucket list? How's it work? What do people do to get engaged?
So there's a template that is the bucket list. So it's helping create and look, bucket list is probably, for the techies out there, it's not the right word for it because it's 2018. We want you to focus on what are you doing right now? What are you going to achieve this year? And we've categorized it with a few different ideas and some examples. And so the challenge is pretty simple. Complete the template. fill in your goals and actually write them down. Because I know with you guys, you'd know when you sit down with a client, it's the hardest thing is getting real goals out of them. Real, what are they trying to achieve and how are we going to? And so that part of it is they're happy to tell you that they need to pay off their credit card and save tax, but when you get into their personal lives, we found that's really difficult. So this challenge is, I guess, just putting it out there to say, hey guys, as financial advisors, we don't just deal with your money. We're trying to help you get in touch with the stuff that comes before that. If we can get that right, then we can help you plug that solution in.
And how? So that, I guess this is for existing clients and also, you know, going out to prospects. And that sort of stuff.
So we sent the email to everyone on our list, which is a combination. It's probably about 20% existing clients and mostly prospects. And we've blasted it fairly heavily on Facebook so far.
And do you have follow-ups off the back of that? So in terms of if they click a link, it then means that they get something else?
Yeah, so we started with the lead pages. So through Facebook, it would be click the link, or through the email, click the link. That goes straight to lead pages, which is just a static page that then has a email wall. Put the email in. The email then sends you the link to the download. And from that, we've got a couple of follow-ups. So 4 days after, we send a, hey, how you going? Have you downloaded it? Where is it? Is it on the fridge? What have you done with it? Can we help?
Yep.
And other than that, it's just a couple of videos. So we're doing a weekly video on Facebook that will then, I guess, follow up on that. Andrew's got one that just went out today, which is a reminder more than anything. But we're going to do one at the end of the month with how we've all gone with our own bucket list as well.
Actually, that's a good point. Like you guys have 3 advisors in your practice. How do you tailor this communication? Do you how's that work?
So we sat down, and again, part of that planning around the marketing was to create a couple of avatars. So that it's hard for us to say we're just dealing with a certain demographic. That niche idea was always something we've been challenged with. We knew we needed to do something along those lines, but how do we niche when there's 3 of us in different demographics, different ages, and so forth. So creating 3 different avatars, and it's more someone in their late 20s to 30s, 40s, and then 50s. Who is that person? What do they look like? What are their problems? And how do we help them how do we create a transition for them? And so the whole plan, it started there. And then it was all right, how do we create challenges that are actually going to help these people, and we're not completely wasting our time as well as that.
So in that journey, do you identify who they are somehow, or is that how they slot into each of the... And then you tailor what they get? So if they're a bit older, they might get Andrew.
So we've got videos on our website so everyone can meet us before they reach out. So if someone's on our website or if someone's looking around on Facebook, they'll be able to kind of get a bit of a feel for who we are. And we found people self-select fairly early on. So it's not a lead coming in saying, I want someone to talk to me. They've found Andrew online and they want to talk to Andrew.
Yeah, cool.
I guess it's kind of the nice thing, right, about having 3 different advisors from, you know, totally different walks of life, and, you know, there's someone for everyone, right?
Absolutely. And look, that sounds beneficial, and there's certainly a lot of benefit to it. It also has its challenges. So the marketing plan is not straightforward. You've got to try and find a way to bring in those different aspects, and that's where the challenges will cover. I mean, a bucket list is really for anyone, but our challenge is now, how do we talk to those people? So when there's 3 different groups out there that we're trying to talk to, or individuals even, how do we target it for that? So the variety is key.
And are you happy with kind of the traction and, you know, where that's come, or is it kind of a bit of a slow build? Because, you know, we were saying earlier, there's still heaps of people I find that's on leave, and, you know, I'm getting a lot of out of offices still even.
Yeah, totally.
We sent the first email on the 3rd of January, and that was too early. we definitely should have waited. As far as happy, I have no idea what we're not really benchmark. We've got nothing to benchmark it against. It's the most our list has grown since we started.
Win.
So that's a good start. Nice. But in saying that, it's the most activity we've put into it and effort. But we had about 40 get on board so far.
Wow. Okay.
We're gonna have a different challenge every month, so hopefully that appeals to a different sector. And you know, some people might go, look, the bucket list isn't for me, but maybe the fitness idea does resonate.
How does this compare? Because you have been running, I guess, a blog and generating an email list. How's it compare to that? And what's the...
So look, to be honest, both of them, like the Sufficient Funds, the blog hasn't had a lot of promotion. So I set that as a challenge for myself to see if I could write a blog, to be honest, to start with, and I set a weekly commitment so I could try and keep that up. the basics of that was map out the chapters of the book I'd want to write and write to it.
Yeah, cool.
And so I found with the business is only 3 years old, and so we're in startup mode still. We're still in trying things and testing things and growing it and getting the income to a level that we're all comfortable to, manage it a bit more rather than just work in it. And so that's still a work in progress.
Yeah,
It's all going in the right direction.
Are you enjoying it? Like doing the blogging and all that sort of stuff? And
loving the challenge. I work best with a lot of pressure. And if I don't have that, I struggle. Yeah. So I need to put myself under pressure. And so that blog's certainly done that.
And the advantage is you've got your better half as a backup blogger as well.
She's pretty bloody good, to be honest. You guys give her way more credit than I do. But she's...
Does she listen to the XY Advisor podcast?
Yeah, she ordered this one.
But yeah, Tash edits things and has written a couple herself, which got more traction than some of mine. So
nice to be a bit of a spike in the...
Absolutely.
So what's the content on? So like for people that don't know you in the business, you've obviously got YOLO Financial Services. I think it was the last awards, the IFA awards, where you're saying, took a leap of faith with the business name and sort of, went to make a statement with that. And that's kind of, that's obviously worked for you guys really well.
So YOLO's worked really well in the sense that a lot of people, we've actually, believe it or not, you've actually had to explain what it means. But when you do, it means, it's pretty obvious and it clicks. So instantly, especially the older generations, you explain it and you link it to the money advice and it's clicked for them. And that works really well.
Better, more than giving them a Drake CD.
Exactly right, mate. Avoid that. But the sufficient funds side of things has been more... it's hard to censor me at the best of times, and we're doing well so far, but sufficient funds is my outlet to be a bit looser.
Yeah, cool.
And so YOLO is about the three of us. It's not about just me. And so we've got to, we want to keep that to a certain level. But from the blogging perspective, it's a lot more about my general niche there, or the niche there, is young people. And the asterisk on that is that young at heart, still qualify, right? So
what about some of the things that you've been sort of talked back from the edge of in terms of doing videos on in YOLO? For the guys that want to have a crack at something a bit wilder out there, what are these ideas that maybe you've had to sort of park to the side?
I think it's probably my potty mouth more than anything. It's not necessarily the ideas. The guys that, everyone's awesome with as far as YOLO goes, we can take that to the edge as well. But
so would a GoPro video at the back of the surf break up on the northern beaches there, would that fit into YOLO? Or?
That sounds pretty good. I should have had it out there this morning. It was pumping.
It would have been.
So yeah, look, I think if I was doing that, that'd be a sufficient funds thing, but who knows?
So so obviously loose with language, but what does sufficient funds do that YOLO isn't? Where's the distinction?
So it's a lot broader. It's not just money. So I think
it's lifestyle.
Where that came from was my story is more around. There's been a career path. There's been setting myself up personally. There's been the marriage and kid and other things that, there's a financial advice aspect to it, but my goal with that was more helping young people get off the ground faster. And it's not necessarily just money. And look, my interests are greater than financial planning. So one of the hardest things as an advisor is you're always trying to achieve the same thing for a client. You're helping them with their money, which I love doing. But that's part. And so I guess for me, the last few years, especially starting YOLO, it's been a lot more, we don't have to wear a suit and tie if that's not us. You can do whatever you want. I'm sitting in thongs. And I don't know if you guys gave me a dress code, but I probably would have ignored it.
We're going to cut the video.
Fair enough, mate. Yeah.
But you get to be authentic,
Yeah.
and you can tap into what makes you tick. And I think that's where sufficient funds is probably just taking that to another level. I've got a big challenge in there to actually dedicate some time to growing it and promoting, because at the moment it's really just keeping it up. But
well, the other thing is, if you went all the way to FinCon, you got to justify that return on investment. I guess you spend a bit of money to go over there,
Yeah.
learn a bit.
That's true.
Was that kind of a kicker for you, to see what the guys are doing in the US and
Yeah.
bloody hell, it's not, I can do this.
So I went to FinCon twice. So 2016 was very much about that. That was launch the blog right after it,
Yep.
and meet a lot of people, see what they're doing. All the crazies that are not financial advisors. They're just sharing their own lessons, whatever they've paid some debt off, or they've invested really successfully in real estate, or they've retired early, and they're just telling their story.
Yeah, cool.
So the attraction there was no one here is doing that sort of thing, right? So there's an amazing opportunity to open up and I guess switch people on a little bit, and so that was one part. And yeah, so the sufficient funds side of things started there. To be honest, I got a lot out of the latest FinCon, and we've brought a lot home, and we've used that with YOLO.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm not just saying that to justify the
Or the next one.
Are you lobbying for a bit of co-funding for the next trip? Is that
potentially? I'd love to go and check out some other conferences. I think there's a lot of some of those social media conferences in the States are
Mate, it's on another level, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of keen, if I can, just to...
I was just going to say Lollapalooza.
For
Burning Man.
Yeah, Burning Man. I've heard some really famous financial services individuals have been out to Burning Man, like Alex Vikovich, and they've had a good time.
That's not fair.
One of the really big bloggers, Paula Pant goes every year. She's massive. She's a huge blogger and a crazy Burning Man fan.
Yeah. What's her name?
Paula Pant.
Okay. And finance?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers. I'd be guessing, but she's got thousands and thousands of followers and does some pretty cool stuff.
What would you trade in Burning Man?
Not sure.
What's the deal with the trade?
Like a lot. It doesn't really have a currency. You just sort of get out there and people will swap clothes for stuff.
Nice.
Whatever you got.
Back to basics.
Yeah, you could probably take a couple of surfboards that you don't want anymore.
Who knows?
Not very useful out in the Nevada desert, but it's
So I'm kind of keen, if I can. You mentioned that the blog was starting to talk about the content that you want for your book.
Yep.
And telling your story and that sort of stuff. So I'm kind of keen, if I can, to if you're happy to share, of course.
Of course.
Let us know some of the stuff that's in your mind there. Because that I think then that kind of is you as a person and breaking away from the business and sort of.
So. Look, I think the biggest thing for us as advisors is it's really difficult for us to get the idea of storytelling. And so I drilled that into myself through, things like FinCon and just, I subscribe to that idea, the ability to tell stories. And so from that, where all this, where that name came from initially was we did a road trip around the States. I went to uni, I did a semester in Canada. In 2004, 3 of my mates went. We all went to different schools, finished up, bought a $1,000 car, one of those wooden panelled Chrysler LeBarons.
Awesome.
And we'd written all over it. We had stickers all over it. It was around the, I can't remember. It was when America had just invaded someone, and one of our Canadian mates had put a big "I love Iraq" on the back. And
you're in Canada for that time.
So we drove around the States.
Oh,
we took 2 months to drive around the States.
How long did the sticker last?
We had it on there the whole time with a surfboard on the roof as well.
You obviously didn't go south then.
We did, funnily enough. But one of the things we did there was sell some T-shirts. So one of the boys had just come away from the ATM with the insufficient funds slip. And so that became the name of our clothing company. We'd planned to just never work a day in our lives and sell that to Billabong and make millions and just move from there. But it didn't happen. We all came back from the road trip. We got jobs. I ended up in the finance industry. 10 years later, I'm looking back on that now saying, okay, well, it's the journey from insufficient to sufficient.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, that's where that's going.
Insufficient funds. I love that. That's fantastic. And motivation for the book, is that kind of... Because I get it, right? For those that I know who've written books, it seems like it would be really, Clay. It seems like something that it'd be taught, like you'd torture over it. But I feel like off the back of that, it would be so rewarding and almost like a psychological weight off your shoulders.
Yeah,
know,
so there's that element of getting myself out on paper and just giving it to whoever wants to read it.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that may be no one. Who knows? But the others, I mean, let's not joke and beat around the bush. It's probably the best business card you could have.
Yeah.
And so like the ability to put yourself out there as an authority in the money space, a book does that really well. But yeah, I think you've got to want to do it. And the only way I couldn't write just a money book, to be honest. And so the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I link it to a story that I actually care about, and then, you know, connect the dots from there and make it, at least try and make it valuable.
Yeah.
Well, they talk about it as the thud factor. To be able to drop something
Exactly.
in front of a client.
No, I feel like there's a comment, you know, about being genuinely authentic with that stuff as well, right? It's, you know, you're not just doing this stuff to create the image of someone who's, you know, leading a life that's true to themselves. You are.
Yeah, I think, look, and the ability, all you need to do, like, you don't have to be, like, I'm not shooting the lights out in anything. We're just doing what we're doing. But if you can stop and take some lessons out of that, and that's what I've tried to learn to do, is just say, what did we get out of that? Like, some of the best books I've read, I cannot remember the name, but I'm sure we can put the link in the comments, but is a book by an astronaut, and I think it's something like life lessons from space, or something like that.
Buzz Lightyear? Or...
No. But like he just tells his story, but from that you're picking up lessons as you go, and so that was you know, one of the things. It's not an advice book. You're not going out there saying do this, because a lot of people don't. It's hard to get that to resonate with people, I think, and for me, I would struggle with that.
We think back to when you were 12 and your parents told you not to do something. You're like, well, I need to learn that lesson. You know?
You just do the opposite.
Yeah. So to that end, storytelling, right? You sort of touched on something before. I suppose you got some views on, you know, financial advisors perhaps being better storytellers and using anecdotes to.
I mean, we all do it, and we've all been there, whether we're there now or not. Is we all take ourselves too seriously. There's no doubt about that. And you're trying to connect with people who don't have a clue about money or are not interested in it. You're not going to get there. It's hard to get there and tap the massive amount of people that don't care at the moment or have no idea where to go.
Yeah.
Unless you open up and just give them something. So that was the goal with Sufficient Funds, and that was the goal with, you know, some of that stuff is just tell the story. Be you. I mean, I'm sitting here in thongs at the moment. I do that with a lot of my clients, not all of them.
Yeah.
But that's just us.
Yeah.
Like, I used to be very comfortable in a suit, but now I'm really not, and I'm, you know,
you feel guilty.
are okay with that.
Well, in terms of like that client segmentation that's traditionally done, in terms of what qualifies a client to be able to get financial advice, how do you guys look at that? Because obviously, you're going to be attracting some younger people that maybe haven't accumulated a lot of net assets.
Yep.
Do you have something for them? What do you offer them, and what does that look like?
We're trialing something at the moment, which is more general advice. So paying a fee for an hour on Zoom.
Yep.
We haven't launched that yet, but we're just working out the ins and outs and whether we can do that and make it work. That's one thing we're looking at. And other than that, we also have the home loan side of the business. So if they're far enough down the track to be a first home buyer, then we can help them.
Sure.
If not, look, it's difficult. It is.
Yeah.
But I think there's a massive market out there for people who want to create courses that are, you know, low cost to be able to, you know, tap that market and wake people up a little bit, or just solve little problems. I think that's where the world's going, is that, you know, the idea of paying an unknown amount for unknown advice is the reason that we don't speak to the whole of the country. So there's a lot in between there that everyone's got money problems.
Don't even speak to a quarter. Yeah. And it's funny, you know, in an interview the boys did with Andy Marshall, he was saying that advisors are kind of an aggregator of their clients' experiences, and the best advisors are good storytellers, almost verbatim to what you've kind of said today, right? And it's kind of interesting that, you know, an advisor's value to a client is just being the aggregator of those experiences, telling really wonderful stories. The ones that are doing really good business are the ones that naturally do it, and the ones that are, you know, they're learning to do it. But it's kind of interesting, it's by fluke, I guess. It's there's common themes here that and that happens through blogging and those sorts of things. It's not an SOA. One of the things that I've often thought about, and I'm sure many others have as well, is how much weight does an AFSL have in the future? If we're getting more and more towards just providing helpful anecdotes to people and they apply that to their own lives, where's the AFSL fit in?
Well, when a client walks out of the office super happy, it's the relationship, it's the conversations you've had. You've helped them do something, but it wasn't grow their money. Like, yeah, some people do look at that, but there's a certain segment of the market at the top end that care about that and that alone, because they've done everything else they need, and they can work out their lifestyle goals themselves and just go and do it.
Yeah.
But if they're not there yet, there's the values, in that stuff.
Interestingly, though, at our business, where we're fortunate enough to work with an older client base who often do have the funds. And their mandate for us is certainly not to go out there and earn them more money. It's this sketchy. They don't lose it. That I've built this up for my lifestyle and for the next. So, even at that level, we're certainly talking about what does that afford you.
Yeah.
We know what the numbers are, and that's what it is. But what does that afford? What's that give to the family and
security?
Yeah. But even deeper, what is security? Why? And there's some awesome conversations even been had at that level.
Yeah, it's not this sort of, I guess you call, trend in terms of expanding the pie a bit in terms of the discussion piece. It's not really a age specific thing. It carries through the whole spectrum.
Yep.
And that's probably I guess a good point of how YOLO can work with a group of advisors that are spread across a few demographics, because the whole YOLO concept of, for those, you only live once. For anyone that didn't quite get that yet.
Spot on.
Might have been a few people Googling before, just like, what's this YOLO thing? But for example, it applies to, like, some of Andrew's clients would be up in the 60s plus.
Yes, absolutely.
I reckon it applies more so the older you are, right? If you're young, you can be somewhat complacent because you've got time, so, you've got that to burn, so to speak. But
maybe you could transition into you don't have long as YDHL. Yeah.
That'd be a good disturb, right?
Yeah. Oh, that takes me back to
another blog. So James is actually our MC for the first Sydney event for the year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, threw me right under the bus.
Yeah, I pretty much bullied him into it. He was a bit apprehensive. He's like, "What are you guys getting me to do here? What's the content?"
I still don't know.
We're not quite sure what the content is yet, but
mate, you got a pretty solid panel. I think you'll be safe.
Exactly right. I think they'll be challenging me.
It's a power team.
Yeah, it is a big
we got
power team.
We got Jess Brady, Adele Martin, and Catherine Gross.
Yeah.
So some awesome
Heavy
ladies.
hitters.
All got their own businesses, all been through some awesome journeys in starting them, some more recent, some bit in the past. And I think James's experience to understand what they've been feeling through that journey is pretty, he knows what's going on.
I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's a perfect set, really.
And also the different types of businesses they've got, like what Adele Martin's doing. Like she's sort of like she's doing Facebook groups for clients. It's just, and she's going to that sort of, I guess, where James, it's similar sort of direction in terms of trying to get that, how do you get that one-to-many approach going on?
Yeah.
And it's, and then like Jess Brady has done, we're talking about the niching. Like the niching she has done is phenomenal. And if, there's a great podcast, Fox and Hare, if anyone's wants to check that out. It was really good. We did with them last year, and it just talks about that journey.
Awesome.
About how they've
just started too, right?
Yeah, it's been the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So and like the awesome thing about them is it's a career change. They've been in financial services, but they haven't been advisors. So they know all the products. They've talked to advisors. They understand like a lot of the things that goes on. It'll be interesting to hear a bit more about what's it like actually delivering on that side of the fence.
Definitely.
So
their theme and the essence I certainly get from their social media isn't a million miles from you guys. It's bucking the trend, certainly not minded to be rolling around in ties and suits and corporate. It's if that's what you like, then that's fine. But there's the majority of the advice industry for you, where we're going to go deep on what we know and who we are, and there's a certain level of authenticity there, and you got to admire that, like the likes of yourself, Jess, Adele, and it's admirable stuff. It's
Well, and Catherine's she was a
Catherine,
life
of course,
coach before
yeah.
she became an advisor.
Yeah,
And
she's got an awesome business.
and it's just her business model is like, if you haven't heard about it, we did a podcast with her last year as well, and you also get a whole lot of, like, it's evolved even further. So like, come down to the event.
Absolutely.
We're having it down at the Art House, actually.
Art House, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Did you ever go to the Art House when you were younger?
a couple of times.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same Art House.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So the Art House was an institution when I was 18. It was like absolute club, like 4 or 5 in the morning, all night, just like ears ringing, coming out when the sun's up. It was,
Gangster rap, R&B.
No. It was like dance music, and it was one of the loosest places outside of the Cross. And I returned near 10 years later, and
Sounds like fun.
Well, yeah. They're probably
I'm a country boy. I grew up in
Yeah.
Grafton, and Newcastle's as far as I got until the end of uni. So
yeah.
Geez, the city would have been a scary place when you got down here.
It was so scary. We went to Brisbane first for a few years, and then came down.
But you get some pretty what do they call them? Bush stuffs. Bush. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Said like a true
Exactly
city
that.
slicker.
Yeah. No, it should be good. I was saying to James earlier, we've got a mad agenda this year just to get around the country with the events, and I think we've set a pretty high bar.
Yeah. Oh, we've already lined up some awesome peeps for the Brisbane event in April, and it's going to be good fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's all about getting the personalities and people with different angles on things, getting them out there and sharing it.
Onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And I suppose to wrap up, how's the little one?
She's amazing. Yeah, keeping us on our toes. She's I think we were talking before, she's falling off the bed, she dives onto the floor head first.
Great.
She smiles a lot, laughs a lot, cries a bit. But yeah, she really keeping us on our toes. She's almost walking, and
10 months, you
Yeah.
said, yeah.
yeah.
So we're both on the other side where we haven't had kids, and like you sort of have a couple that comes in, they've got a child, you're trying to sort of be empathetic, and like how much does that change?
You're
when
asking how I'm doing? Am I okay?
has that improved? Has that improved your engagement with people with children, clients with children, by having one? Like,
Oh, look, it changed. Like everyone, obviously, it changes your life, but of course, on the back of that, it changes your perspective. So, yeah, you can. I feel I'm more qualified to have the conversations now. I mean, you always have them, but now you
Talk
live
from a position of authority,
So
right?
when
it's not just like lip service. Yeah, I've heard that can be pretty tough. But
I'm not complaining, but it's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I get 2 or 3 hours less a night sleep than I used to enjoy.
I feel like that. I mean, I'm talking from a totally ignorant place here, but I feel like the sleep thing would be a big factor. So if you've got a little kid that sleeps well, then that would be a saving grace, I imagine.
Yeah.
well, I think there's a trade-off. Like you lose sex for kid time. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if kid time replaces that, unfortunately.
Well, before Adrian and I spend too much time talking about kids, I reckon we should probably...
5 minutes doesn't equate 3 hours, does it? That's it.
No, thanks, dude. That's awesome. You've been really generous to come down and shoot the breeze. It's an awesome story. So how do you, because it's a different spelling, Sufficient Funds. I'm just thinking.
Sufficient Funds with a Z. So
Yeah.
we decided to call it YOLO. That was corny enough. I thought I could get away with putting a Z on the back, mainly because I'd have to pay $5,000 to put an S on it to get the domain.
Yeah.
So I didn't bother.
Yeah, especially if that ATM card's still bouncing, right?
Exactly right. And it is. No.
Yeah.
The self-employed advisor.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
sufficientfunds.com. And if you want to check out the challenges and what we're doing, Facebook's probably a good place to go. YOLO Financial Services.
Yeah, no, awesome. And you're active on the group, so if everyone's got questions, I'm sure you'll
Absolutely.
be happy to
Yep.
shoot the breeze. It's one of the nice things, right? Everyone's just sharing what they're doing. And,
Collaboration.
Yeah,
It's one thing we don't do enough of.
yeah, totally. Well, mate, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
cheers,
Stoked
James.
to be here.
We'll see you at the event.
Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks.
Cheers.